Panzanella, or bread salad, epitomises simplicity in terms of the great ingredients that you use and then bringing them together to create what is a very humble but equally very majestic dish. And this is a salad that I love to return to time and time again, and it is so quick to make. A bread salad might not sound that exciting, but actually when you have fantastic fresh tomatoes with garlic, capers, a little bit of olive oil, basil and the like, all those flavours mingle together. They create a fantastic juice. The bread will then soak up just enough of the juice to stop it from going sodden. And every mouthful that you have will just be a flavour explosion and a real taste of summer. It's really worth using slightly stale bread for a panzanella. If you use fresh bread, it will absorb all those wonderful juices too easily, and you will end up with basically lots of cotton wool almost in the bowl. Very, very nicely flavoured cotton wool, but it's not what you want. So with a slightly older or staler loaf, it will just take enough of the juices on. To make the panzanella, I've just torn in several slices of bread. I've not bothered taking the crusts off. You can if you want to. You really don't need to chop it finely or cube it or anything like that. Just rip it with your hands into a bowl. So it's just a matter of adding the other ingredients. So I've got several tomatoes that I've just chopped into smallish pieces, and I've kept the skins on. You can take them off if you want, but I'm quite happy to have the skin, to be honest. And I'm just going to add that to the bowl. I've got some char-grilled pepper that I had on the barbecue the other night. You can just use fresh pepper. You can actually use char-grilled peppers from a jar. And I'm just going to tear these in roughly. Again, it's all very rustic. You don't have to be that precise with it. There we go. I've got some red onion that I've just peeled and sliced very, very thinly. Just a handful or so. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic that I've just peeled and very finely crushed. I'm now going to add a spoonful or so of toasted pine nuts. I love these. I've got some capers. I'm just taking them straight from the jar. I don't really want a lot of the vinegar. So just, again, maybe a spoonful, maybe a bit more. Depends on how sharp you want it. I do love the slightly sharp flavours that the capers give. A generous glug of olive oil. It can take quite a bit. A little drizzle of balsamic vinegar, not too much, just enough to give a lovely sharpness. And then some fresh basil. So I'm just going to take probably a handful, and I'm just roughly tearing it in. And that flavour that you get from the fresh basil is wonderful. And also the aroma, as you just start to tear it apart, the aroma just wafts wonderfully. And again, it can take a lot of basil, so just go for it. I think a bit more. I sometimes put in some of the stalks as well. I quite like the crunch of the stalks. I'm just going to add a little splash of red wine vinegar. You don't need to, because there's already some vinegar in there. But whereas the balsamic adds a nice sweetness, I just like the slight tartness that this gives. Just a capful or so. You can add more if you want to. And then a good grinding of sea salt. And that's essentially it. Sometimes I'll add some anchovies straight out of a tin. Just drain them and roughly tear them up into there as well. And then essentially, what I've got there in the bowl, all those fantastic ingredients. And now I'm just going to go in with my hands and give everything a really good mix. And as I go, I'm just gently squeezing the tomatoes just to help release some of those juices. Again, the aroma is wonderful, particularly the garlic is now kicking in. Just fantastic. Just wipe my hands. And there you've got a very, very quick, easy panzanella. And I love the colours as well. Now this is best to wait for a couple of hours before you serve it. The flavours then will just mingle beautifully. but it is perfectly lovely just to tuck into now. Now, I have also made this using gluten-free bread, and usually gluten-free bread is pretty horrible really and very expensive, but it does make a good panzanella. The bread will still take on those wonderful juices, and it makes a fairly unexciting bread into something really quite fantastic.